I've never before had such a difficult time just trying to buy a singular watch. Hello, you're watching James. My name's James, you're watching me, and I am talking about watches, and I'm talking about a specific watch that has just arrived on my doorstep, and I'm excited that it has arrived, and I'm somewhat surprised that it has arrived because this was not the first attempt at buying this particular Moonphase triple date calendar. I'm not even sure what you call one of these from Merkur off Aliexpress, because last year I first saw a photo of this one. I think I saw it on Instagram, and when I saw it I thought, wow, I like that design. It's a design that is quite well known. It is a design that has been utilized by many brands before, but all those other brands have these watches listed at quite a high price. A lot of them are vintage watches, but they're still demanding quite high prices. But I really like the design of this style. So to find one that's on AliExpress with a mechanical movement at a price that I could afford meant that I wanted to buy it. But when I first tried to buy it, it wasn't available. The watch that I'm going to be showing you today actually comes in 3 different variations, just slight variations of the dials. And then it also comes in a mineral crystal version and a sapphire crystal versions. But there's one that I wanted, one of those 3 that I was specifically chasing that I liked, and it was sold out and not available. I reached out to the company and said, when is this one being restocked? And they were nice enough to communicate back to me very quickly, and they've actually had some great communication in this store that there was coming shortly. So I kept an eye out for it. And when I saw it pop up again, I clicked buy it now. I was happy that I finally was going to get the watch that I've been chasing. And then a week later, the store contacted me saying, sorry, there's been a bit of a delay. And I thought, that's fine. Thank you very much for communicating that with me. It would have been easy for them just not to send me a message. But then a week later, they said, sorry, there's been an issue. It's no longer available. And they refunded me my money. So it was good that I got my money back, but it was a couple of weeks later and now I didn't have the watch. So I kept an eye on it. And a few months later, it popped up again. It was now back in stock. So I clicked on that buy it now button again, and I started watching that tracking. And the tracking didn't move. And about a week or so later, they commented back to me in the messaging service saying, sorry, this one is no longer available. It is out of stock. And they refunded me the money again. So twice, 2 for 2. I bought a watch, it didn't arrive, but they refunded me. So I'm not complaining about the money, but it's a shame that I didn't get the watch. But of course, I kept an eye on it. And this time, when it popped up again, it was the mineral crystal version, not the sapphire crystal version. But at this stage, I was not caring about which version. I just wanted this specific style of watch, and I'll be showing it to you shortly. And I pressed buy now, and then I had absolutely no expectations of it actually arriving, but it has now. And if you're interested in one of these after seeing this video, well, be aware, well, it might take a while to get, but I will leave an affiliate link to the store that I bought it from, albeit it has been a bit of a mess trying to get this watch. They have been great with their communications, and I haven't been out of pocket any money long term, and I did eventually get this watch. But now let's turn around, and I want to show you the first few things that have stood out to me about this one as soon as it arrived on my doorstep. So I was able to pick up this version of the Moonphase from Merkur with the mineral crystal for $180 US. Now it is also available with sapphire, and that costs a little bit more, that one being $220 US, but I'm just happy now to have this one in my collection. It comes with a bunch of different little bits and pieces that these watches tend to come with. And as soon as this one arrived, there were 5 things that really stood out to me. First of all, the strap, because this is not the strap that came with it. This is one that I have added to it, and I'm going to be leaving it on this strap because the original strap that it came with, this one here, well, it's kind of awful. It actually looks sort of okay, but it smells terrible. It has that sort of fake leather sort of smell to it. I'm not a big fan of black straps either, which is probably a small part of the reason why I don't like it, but realistically it's just not a very well made strap. So I'm not going to be wearing it with this one. I'm going to be wearing it with this sort of more affordable AliExpress strap that I purchased, and I think it looks great, and I'm going to be keeping it on this one. The second thing that stood out to me was when I turned this watch over to look at that mechanical movement and saw that very interesting crystal there with some printing on it. In the center of the crystal, there is that Merkur envelope style sort of logo, but then it has all these lines coming out from the center out to the outside of that case back. And initially I thought, that's a little bit annoying. It sort of gets in the way of seeing that hand winding movement. But I think the reason they've done it is possibly to play with the light a little bit. If you do turn the watch around a little bit and back and forth with the light, I think the differences of those lines with the movement itself creates a bit of a shimmer, and maybe that's why they did it. I think it's slightly annoying and gets in the way of seeing the movement, but well, that's what they have on this one, and I can't change that. The third thing to stand out to me was just all the pushes and buttons on this watch to activate that movement. Of course, we've got the crown there, but we have a pusher, and a pusher, and they are to activate all the different complications of this watch. We obviously have a day of the week, a month, a pointer date there, and a Moonphase, so we need to activate all of them. One of those does the month, one of those does the day, one of those does the date, one of those does the Moonphase. We're then left with that sort of vintage style looking crown to activate this three-hander. As a running second, hour and a minute. There does appear to be a ghost position there on that movement, which is interesting, but all the way out we can then activate and move the time around. You can see it does not hack the movement, and it is worth noting there is a little bit of play on that crown, which is a little bit concerning. The fourth thing to stand out to me was actually the dimensions of this watch, because, well, this is more of a vintage style watch. There's lots of different brands that has this pretty much exact look to it, and most of them, or at least all of them, are basically vintage watches. So it was going to be a little bit unclear about how this was going to sit on wrist and how they would do their dimensions, but I think they've done it perfectly because it has a case of 40 and a lug to lug of 46, and that just seems to be really spot on. Gives it a bit of room to show off all the things that are on this dial, but it also has just a nice wrist presence with those dimensions. And the last thing that really kind of stood out to me was the two-tone effect on that dial. I'm not sure if I was expecting that, but I think it's a really nice addition. In the center there, you'll see there is a circle, then followed up with a sort of more circle down at the Moonphase, and that's more of a matte finish. But then there is that sort of glossy sunburst effect going through the main numbers, and then back to that more matte finish. And it just allows it to play with the light a little bit. And I really do appreciate that. It gives it something a little bit extra. And I'm going to say that I'm really enjoying this watch. There's a couple of things about it already that aren't perfect. That strap, not perfect. A little bit of play in the crown, not perfect. A little bit unsure of an affordable movement that has all these complications, and then that see-through case back may not be perfect, but that does not stop me really liking this one. I just love the style, and it's not going to be an everyday wear for me anyway, so I'm not too phased about the movement. But that does mean, unfortunately, I'm probably going to have to adjust all those complications every time I then do wear this watch, which then could be an issue too, but, well, I don't care about any of that, because I just like it. And as I mentioned, these dimensions just seem to fit really nicely. I have a 17cm wrist, and it seems to be perfectly sized for me. But the good thing about this sort of style and these dimensions is it should suit smaller wrists because of those dimensions, but because of the style and it's sort of being okay to be a bit smaller on a wrist, it will then suit larger wrists too. I'm really happy to finally have this one in my collection, and I can foresee it being in my collection for some time. So I do plan to circle back to this one in a couple of months and do a much more in-depth review, and hopefully see how that movement has performed as well in that time frame. So thank you so much for watching. Keep an eye out for that upcoming full review of this one. But whilst we wait, well, there's a couple of videos there that you might want to watch next.